What is up, everybody? It is Moonbo here, and welcome back to another episode of Scrap Mechanics Suggested Creations, coming at you with another giant build. This time it is a giant dump truck, the Belaz 75710. So you might actually notice something here. Look at those wheels. Those aren't normal wheels. And so, obviously, you might have noticed that it is the Derf mod. So I decided to get the mod for these wheels because this build without them, honestly, it just didn't work. And actually, you can see right here. Oh god, what are those? So obviously this build was looking good, and then I ended up at the wheel part and I realized, wow, that looks terrible. So I bit the bullet, guys. I got the Derf mod. Really cool though, you guys should check it out. I will put a link in the description for all that cool stuff. Now, let's get right into this build, shall we? So, the Belaz is a dump truck that is used for mining. Now, in the real world, it has a towing capacity of 450 tons of mined rocks. So, this is considered to be the biggest dump truck in the world, I believe, at the moment, especially for the capacity that it can hold. So I tried to do it as much justice as I could in this game by adding as much detail as I could, looking up pictures and videos as well to really nail this one. So how about we'll start with the outside here, and we'll talk about the driving mechanisms, the steering mechanisms, as well as kind of like the fun that I had with the detail work. So how about we start off right here. I'm going to bring this up because it'll definitely help to have my crosshair here. So we can hop up onto this little service ladder. Sometimes it might take a couple tries, and we could actually press this switch here and get right inside. So here you can see that this is pretty much like all thruster driven. So it's pretty intense actually to see this many thrusters in such a vehicle. You know, it's a land vehicle, but it's loaded with thrusters, and that is entirely for the drive as well as the steering too, actually. So it's kind of funny, this thing is driven by thrusters. So we can hop back out of there and shut that door behind us and kind of walk under here a bit. You can see that there is a ladder to get inside. Now this is pretty interesting. The switch does get a little hidden right there, but you can press that no problem and you can climb up that ladder to get inside. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about this steering. So, one thing that I wanted to try and stay true to was the steering mechanism in the real one. So here you can see, I'll bring up the connection tool, there is just a single bearing here, as well as a single bearing right here. So the reason for that, of course, is because both of the wheels steer from the center column in the real design. So I wanted to do that as best I could to keep it realistic. So I ended up adding these kind of like these little pegs here. So those pegs actually stop it from oversteering, because I do have thruster assisted steering, which you will see once we hop into the driver's seat here. But those sets of thrusters there are used to aid in the turning of the entire thing. So sometimes you kind of end up in some funny situations and they tend to get a little caught up. So let's climb up this ladder, shall we, and see what this is all about up top here. So we can hop up there. Now we can press this like that and it'll kind of scoop us in like so, but it is also attached to the driver's seat. So here we go. This is the main deck up here that is pretty barren anyway. There's not much to it. Some thrusters here to assist in the dumping mechanism, because this thing is just so big, it's so heavy. So let's get a little bit of a backup view here. I'm gonna increase the field of view just to give you guys an idea of how giant this creation actually is. But nonetheless, really happy with it. So I'm gonna start pressing these thruster steered assistants here, so you can see that they actually tend to whip back and forth like so, which is really nice, and those pegs stop it from oversteering. Sometimes the suspension does get a little bouncy for some reason. There's a bit of a glitchiness in the game, but as you can see, this thing drives pretty good actually. Aside from the fact that I'm getting some of that suspension bounce at the moment, you can see that it handles really well. I'm so happy I chose to get the Derf wheels actually, because without those wheels, this thing was just, oh, it was hideous, honestly. This really brought the build together. So you can see it can handle some interesting terrain. You can see the steering is doing the job anyway. It's not necessarily the smoothest or the coolest, but it is true to the real build. So we can kind of press the 2 key here for a bit of a reverse effect, which is also using the thrusters. So the 1 key is what's actually going to bring the dumping mechanism, so you can see the entire thing will raise up nice and slow, and there it goes. So if you had anything in there, it would definitely be rolling on its way out. So we can just press the 1 key again, of course, and that'll shut right back down, and we can just keep on driving. So I'm going to try and show you guys just how decent this thing is. So you can see I can smash into rocks like that, and it usually recovers pretty good. Never too many issues right there. It kind of whips around, but eventually fixes itself. So how about we get into the first-person cam here. I do believe I have the camera on the strict follow. So here you can see, with the first person, this thing is actually loads of fun to drive. And you kind of forget just how large this creation is when you're looking at it from the third person. But once you go into first person here, you can see that it is towering above these hills and stuff, and almost near the top of these trees. So let's try and find a bit of an opening here and see if we can't take it through the terrain and really challenge this driving ability. Alright, I have finally come across something that looks like it could be worthy of testing the driving ability of this truck. So let's just see how nimble this thing really is. So I'm going to try my best to drive through this narrow pathway. Maybe I might be able to do it in just the first person. We'll have to see though. Let's oh man, I'm not too sure. This might be a little more than I was ready for. I'm gonna go into the third person for this one just because it is that big. Nope, that's not good. That's a rock. Let's try and back it up here so we can get another attempt at this. Can we cut that tree? Nope. Almost though, almost. Alright, hold on here. Alright, there we go. Back on track. Sharper turn. Nice and easy. Don't get caught up on that branch. Perfect. Whew. We're doing it. Let's get into the first person again and see if this will work out. Alright, so we're taking the mountain pass here, obviously. A little bit of difficulty getting into it, but I don't know if this thing actually can handle a hill this steep. Incidentally, the real design can only handle 18 degrees of slope, which is rather interesting. But it seems like we're making our way up rather slowly, but I can't believe I fit through that little pass right there, which is actually really cool. So we are definitely starting to max out on our uphill ability. So just like the real one, I'm guessing, it just doesn't have the power. I'm sure I could add the thrusters, but I mean, this thing has to stay relatively realistic. So let's try and reverse it out. I don't think this is gonna work out, but I mean, it's worth a shot. No, oh geez. Well, overall guys, this build is absolutely fantastic. It's so much fun to drive around, even through some of the narrowest of passages. So if you guys did enjoy this build, and you do enjoy the giant builds, because this is very similar to the theme of the Giant Excavator for a mining world, so if you guys want to see more giant creations as well, let me know down in the comments, give me some suggestions. I have a few in mind already, and I think it would be really cool to create like this giant mining world kind of build scene. So make sure you guys hit that like button, of course, if you want to see some more, and if you haven't already, subscribe for endless scrap mechanic, and I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye for now.